Hey everybody, welcome to the Gutenberg live show. It's been like a month, I think, since we've done this. Zach, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. I've been to Serbia and back. There's been a lot of news with Gutenberg, so it's good to be live with you again, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a lifetime has happened since the last time we spoke. So let's dive right into it. Well, the biggest news is Gutenberg has a roadmap, but we're gonna tease that and we're gonna talk about 3.1 instead. First. So Gutenberg 3.1 dropped this week. They are keeping to their bi-weekly schedule or every other week. Is bi-weekly twice a week? Their every other week schedule. And it looks like they are doing a lot of high level stuff right now. So the biggest it looks like the biggest user change is that there are some tooltips going on that kind of help guide the user. And aside from that, it looks like just some minor fixes. Some slightly new design stuff like the sibling inserter, um, and some preview changes, but it doesn't look like anything too crazy has changed as far as 3.1, and we'll get to why that is in a little bit. But it looks like Gutenberg is getting ready for its kind of final push before we get to our bug fixes.
Yeah, if you look at it, there's some nice technical stuff. I mean, it's almost too much to read, and it's in a bunch of different areas, but to generalize it somewhat, there's just a lot of good refinements going on. Um, you know, the main changes we've seen to Gutenberg code-wise have just been like, it makes more sense to call it this or put it here, or like, oh, let's refine that. Okay, we finally have time. Let's go patch this or make that work better. I think we're seeing more technical refinements that have to do with user testing and finding things that just are still a little buggy. Um, but pretty good stuff there. Yeah, the sibling components has come along lately. So now you could tie a block to only being available within other blocks, or if you have a column block to say, only show these ones available with it. So again, just refinements and things like that. I do like the little user tips thing because that means that we now have it baked in to use. Remember, any
Mm.
component you see, you could use yourself. You just might have to do some extra wiring. So that's exciting. Um, I think there was a discussion actually a while back. Should they go with like an out of the box pop up generator or take over screen or something? And I think they kind of went somewhat more a bit roll your own. I know there's some technology under there that they probably didn't build everything from scratch, although they might have. So, yeah, cool refinements there.
Nice. Yeah, it looks I mean, the tooltips look like they fit pretty well in with the rest of the editor stuff. So,
Yeah.
I really like that. It's very cool that developers can now use it. And yeah, I just really like the look of it. It's not obtrusive or intrusive, I should say. It's not intrusive or anything like that. And lots of other refinements going on. So really like that. I'm excited to try it out, especially because Gutenberg has a roadmap, and that roadmap,
There it
the
is.
yeah, right. The big news is that they want to be feature locked by the end of this month. So that's good news for the course creators. We probably don't have to worry about Gutenberg changing too much after official word that it's feature locked, and July is going to be bug fixes. So, um, really good news for the I'm excited. I'm going to redo my whole course and make it
Oh,
more.
cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm going to make it more freelance focused, and it's going to have a finalized UI and everything like that. So anybody who has previously purchased the course will get those updates for free. And if you are holding out, there might be a price bump, so might be good time to get it. But I think that's probably the same for the development side of things, right? They're probably not going to add too much as far as changes to the code base after June, right? You were at WordCamp Europe, right, Zach?
Yeah, I was there when he gave this, and it was funny to see the community live tweeting it, like, it just got spread around so quick. But yeah, was there for that. I think on the development side, there's not gonna be too much else, which is interesting. Like, I'll just throw out one of the big technological things is how much on the server side are you aware of creating blocks, and, like, is that dependent? And so it looks like it's gonna roll out. There's some server side stuff you could do for setup blocks, but maybe not to the extent of some people wanted. So we probably will see another round of enhancements at some point, maybe when it
Mhm.
rolls into customizer or something. But in terms of coming up, yeah, we're kind of locked down now from the development that we are going to see a really big change because it's going to be folded into core. So
Right.
have a folder called Gutenberg, and we had an architecture within that. So some of that's getting redistributed. They're reorganizing a lot of internal JavaScript already. There have been parallel projects for that. So I'm going to wait until we have some sort of alpha beta candidate and we see what that code base is like so that we could reorient ourselves with where does everything live? How do we get it? And that'll be when I kind of redo some things, although the actual examples in mind might not need to be redone. Just the first half of the course where I introduce you to all the code. So we'll see how that evolves. That's kind of cool that it's, yeah, as you said, as an educator, it feels good to get locked down, but I know as a community, they're ready for more iterations, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's not to say that we're not looking forward to more iterations, but I know
Yeah,
that,
good
you know,
point.
I've got like 13 videos and maybe four different UIs. So I'm excited from the user standpoint to have something more concrete, more consistent throughout the course. And you know, it's just nice to see, you know, this is the culmination of over a year of work. Our courses have been out for half of a year, and so it's nice to see everything finally come together. And the question that we get most often is when. Um, and Matt said as early as August. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's a lot more. There's so originally it was April. There's a lot more clear of a roadmap now. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
there
so
is. He
yeah,
got kind of specific with it. Do you want to maybe go into what we could expect? We're already in June, but maybe over July and August, because there were some details. I put out the link in the show in the chat for folks watching.
yeah, I think it would be very good to go over that stuff. And Zach, I'm going to toss it to you. I did read, like, I saw the slides, but I wasn't at the talk. Oh, well, I mean, it's broken down nicely in this article for on the tavern.
WP Tavern, they
Yeah.
got it.
Hey,
Yeah,
look at that. Yeah. So freeze new features in Gutenberg is June. And then hosts, agencies, and teachers invited to opt-in sites they have influence over. So I think that's a really interesting plan, because they're going for you know, kind of the big fish, right? Um, I'm not just saying that because I'm a teacher, but the people who have a lot of let's say controlled influence over who is using Gutenberg, right? If teachers are using it in the classroom, they have a pretty controlled environment where they can let their students kind of have at and try it out. And the same thing with hosts, right? Hosts can kind of control that environment a little bit. So, um, you know, I think that's a very interesting approach. Um, Opt in for WP admin users on WordPress.com. And just for a clarification there's a difference between the WP admin users and then the Calypso users, right? So,
correct.
yeah,
Yep.
so on WP.com, that's people who are seeing the traditional admin area that we see using WordPress.org. Um, Calypso, I thought I saw something on Calypso. Oh,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
going to work on making Calypso as well. So that means eventually the full thing on .com as well as the mobile apps, right? Which is going to be
Yeah.
kind of cool. And I know that they've got to do some work there, I guess are, but yeah.
Yeah, right. And those 2 points, especially, right? There's been a lot of focus on Gutenberg on the desktop because um, I think that's probably the most common denominator, and that's going to be the widest audience. But they do want it to work on mobile and in Calypso.
So I
So
post, man. I use .com for a bunch of my sites, especially like quote sharing or even my personal WordPress blog one. So
nice.
I think that that's smart. I'm excited to get a sneak preview of it in production before some other instances. And that's why it's always nice. If you don't have a .com site, I suggest keeping one for some purpose, just so that you could stay up on what's happening with it and what they do. And yeah,
Yeah, and if you use Jetpack, you can publish from .com to your own site too. So, if you want to use the WordPress.com mobile app and you have Jetpack, you can do that. Which I've tried doing. I like writing in like a dedicated writing app though. But maybe that'll change when Gutenberg hits the mobile apps. So we'll see. I'll be excited to try it on my 10.9-inch iPad. So June, that's the big stuff going on, right? Mobile app support, feature freeze, things like that. In July, we're going to get uh, the storied Gutenberg nag that everyone's nervous about.
the long-awaited nag.
Yes.
Yeah,
4 point. They haven't assigned a version to it. 4.9 release with strong invitation to either install Gutenberg or the classic editor plugin. So it'll do a check. It'll smartly determine if you have the ability to install Gutenberg, and then it will ask you to. This is, I think, when we'll see the greater WordPress community finally understand and see what Gutenberg is. I think that it's
yeah.
still people in the know for the most part, people who go to meetups and things like that. But just like the casual user or even the casual freelancer who uses WordPress but isn't embedded in the community have no idea this is coming yet. So
I
that'll be big, I think.
think it's going to be interesting. This is like when the roller coaster gets up to the top, right before your belly drops out, right? To see
Yeah.
how it goes. But I'm still imagining it as someone who's just kind of using WordPress and whatever, and they go in and then they see this new editor. Like, there's going to be some people who are joyed. And I think that that's really exciting. Of course, we are paying attention to all of the technical details and the migrations and this and that. But like, I think that there's going to be joy for some people, and that's exciting and cool. And I think good to keep a perspective on, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Zach, you and we've seen this firsthand. If we divide up teams by developers and content editors, the developers are the nervous ones, right? Because they're gonna have to do the work. But the content editors are like, this is gonna make my job so much better. I don't have to use short codes to do anything remotely cool anymore. So it's definitely good to keep that perspective. We write
Yeah.
software for the users, and for the most part, the users are going to be excited. There's going to be that learning curve, right? It's like anything.
Yeah. But it's
But
not unintuitive. It's an easier learning curve than short codes and like adding
right,
grids to your site, columns with shortcuts or something.
yeah, exactly. How do I do this now? Well, you have to install this plugin, and then you have to write something that kind of looks like code,
Yeah.
but is not.
What would be really cool is if since we're just throwing out ideas because that's
Yeah,
what they want, is if you could almost install or view block plugins from within the block adder so that you could see like, oh, this isn't listed here, but then a scroll down of like, oh, install this block or this block. And it kind of has a demo. Like, I know we're not at that level, but
yeah, but I mean, it'll certainly show people the power of
oh, wait,
Gutenberg.
there's an API for that. I wonder if
Oh,
you know anything about
hey.
React?
What? Free ideas, everybody. We're giving you free ideas.
Yeah, everybody. Okay, so yeah, you said that takes us into July, and then I think being there, the biggest thing I saw was just that slide. Like that was the one I pulled out my phone and tweeted that out of like
Mhm.
as early as August. And
Yeah.
even if you look at the timeline of April, when we were talking about this in April, there hasn't been much added since then. They're doing refinements, right? So um, August, and if it's October still, that would give
Yeah.
us the same kind of buffer as before if you're, want to know about the time and estimating releases. But at that point, like that's really into alpha. So like there might be changes on it, but we're looking at it no longer as a plugin, but as part of core. And that for me is a big shift. That's something I want to pay a lot of attention to. And let's give them time. You don't want to get this part wrong, right? Like
Right.
you
Right.
want to everything as smooth as possible. I really like the ant medicine behind this of like take the time, build it up right. How long is it going to take? As long as it takes. And but at the same time, that August is cool to hear. And yeah, my personal vibe is I think they'll be in a pretty good place. Like I said, it might be October before it rolls out, but who knows? And they're going to do it right. So
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Like if you look at the 3.1 release notes, there are some new things and then there's just a huge list of fixes and upgrades. And so they are, again, I know we've talked about like how well the Gutenberg team is working, but props to them. Like that's just
Yeah,
they're doing like 31% of the web. They're writing software that's going to fundamentally change how 31% of the web works. So,
it's huge.
yeah.
I also want to throw out because I did get a chance to see the dev team. They did a roundtable workshop there, and a bunch of them were hanging out, which was great to see. Some of them in person, and they did say, "Hey, if people want to help us, like, yeah, that would be great." So if you know React and know how to just like troubleshoot little things, like this might be a time if you didn't get in before. Um, Go out and help them. Reach out, see if there are little bugs and issues, because if we get that mass kind of help and things at this point, that would probably help. And you know what it's like to troubleshoot things all day. That's not as fun as building a new cool new feature and making it look good. So yeah, call out to the community if you want to go and try to help and contribute, and get involved. Say that you built part of this. Say, hey, this used to be this way before and I fixed that thing forever.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's it's a little bit like trying to proofread your own blog post. I try to proofread my own blog post and it doesn't go well because I made assumptions on what I've written. Um, so if you're the fresh eyes and you're the one using it and you notice something, you give that feedback because you are making the software better for everybody.
Yeah.
Don't and I'm guilty of this too. I'll just like kind of go out and tweet some complaint, but not log it with the proper channels. Um, Log it with the proper channels too. Um, so
Well, that ties into there's still the Gutenberg compatibility plugin project to help check, where plugins are at this. And I think you're going to get into something that Tom was getting into of when should people really get involved. But the plugin thing is another place you could be helping with. I don't know if you have that handy, man, or if anybody that's listening can pop that in. But there's a Pantheon helped sponsor that, and Daniel from WPCLI put that together. So I think that could still use some eyes on.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I will somebody will find the link and we'll drop it in the show notes or the notes for this video if you're watching it after the fact. But yeah, so if there's nothing else about the timeline, why don't we talk about our sponsor?
Ooh, let's bring
Ooh.
them on down.
All right, this and the entire Gutenberg live show series has been sponsored by GiveWP.com. Check them out. They are a free donations plugin for WordPress. If you want to start taking donations on your website, you can do that for free with Give. So go to givewp.com. You can see it in action over at gutenberg.courses/ask-us. There's a little donation form on the bottom there. If you like what we're doing, feel free to donate to us. We'll use it for coffee when we're updating our courses. And otherwise, check out Give. They're really great. They're very supportive of the community, and what they offer goes beyond their free plugin. They have lots of premium add-ons that are going to that allow you to kind of take a simple donation site and make it a maybe a membership site or a recurring donation site or a Patreon type site. Um,
Hmm.
but instead of Patreon getting 5% or more of your profits, you get to keep all that minus the credit card processing fees, which you're going to lose anywhere. So, um, I'm a big fan of givewp.com. Zach, do you have any favorite add-ons that they've
Oh, I got some.
developed?
I'm pushing you off the soapbox, man. Give me the mic. I want to talk about my friends
All
at
you.
Give now. It's my turn, okay?
Yeah.
Everything he said, plus, oh, I gotta say the same thing again. It's the donation plugin to use. I'm doing a free conference coming up, and I wasn't really thinking about taking money from people. I did try to find a sponsor too, but like free to give back. And I realized maybe I should throw up a donations plugin or a little donations button. And I didn't even have to think through it. Who am I going to use for that? Give, right? Of course. But then you mentioned some other stuff. I know one plugin I want to shout out to and have people check out is the recurring one, because donations are gonna, go like this and then down. And if you can get those people locked into a recurring donation, that's going to make a big difference. And it's going to help them create this perpetual feeling of giving and matters. Like the people who want to give to stuff want to make it as easy as possible. So that's definitely a plugin and component to check out. At some point, you're going to have a project where this pops up. Just use them. Okay. The other thing is that they've got some, we've mentioned in the past, they're involved with the community. They've been involved with Gutenberg, and was chatting with some of them and trolled their archives, their blog. And they've got some really cool resources. One I'll share out this week is auditing your WordPress plugin for Gutenberg. So they've gone through the process of having a really successful, sometimes the most important plugin on a site is that donation button. And they're getting ready for, they're, making it GP compatible. So they know what they're talking about. They know how to scale. They know how to look for important things. And I posted the link up there. I'd suggest you go check out that article, share it out, get it out there to folks, because as you're going to mention again, I'm alluding to the Tom teasing out what he's got to say. Some folks aren't going to pay attention to this stuff yet. And this could be a great resource, either for yourself, your own developers. Kevin Hoffman over there did a great job with it. And like I said, like we talk about, it's a free product. It's so great what they do, but the people are good too, and their involvement is great. So that article is definitely something to plug. And again, we're grateful to be here, bringing y'all the news, answering any questions you got. Thanks to Give.
Yeah, thanks so much to Give. I dropped another link in the chat there for tributes. I really like that one. It's a premium add-on, but I know that I could have used that with my wedding site a few years ago, 2 years ago actually, like this month. Because the gift for our attendees was a donation in their name, right? So using Give for even something like that, it doesn't have to be a nonprofit. It could just be for a good cause. There's lots of good causes out there. There are lots of things that need good causes. So once again, thanks to Give. Check them out at givewp.com.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
No, we thought we were done. I'm sorry, but you just gave me another great idea. I mean, we're content creators here, right? Like the crowd-funded, business-funded model is definitely part of where we're at and part of the economy of it. And you could build your own like personal Patreon, like you said. I should look into that.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. There's lots of ideas. I've got a few in the hopper. I'm launching a new podcast soon, where I have some ideas where we can plug Give WP as well, or Give. Yeah. So, but enough gushing. We don't want to make them blush over there. We're going to turn their.
I do. I hope it worked.
We're going to turn their logo from green to red over there because
But the
they're
show
blushing so
must
hard.
go on, as you
Indeed.
said. Yes.
So before we get to the Tom McFarlane article that we've been teasing, we've been teasing about another thing for several weeks now. The ramp for Gutenberg plugin, or Gutenberg Ramp, as it's now called. It's out. It's out. So all this talk about Gutenberg is coming out, maybe August. What are we gonna do? Maybe some people aren't ready yet. Demand for Gutenberg is not there by Tom McFarlane. McFarlane, no D. And you know what? The folks at WordPress VIP and Automatic have thought of that. They put out a plugin for free. It's on the repo. It's called Gutenberg Ramp, and it allows you to smartly and selectively upgrade to Gutenberg based on post ID as well as post type. So do we drop that link in the show notes? Yes.
No, that was the wrong one. Hold on. I dropped in the roadmap one. Here we go.
Yeah, all right. Well, it is being dropped.
There we go. Gutenberg Ramp. Here we go.
Yeah. Very exciting stuff here. Check out the introduction to Gutenberg Ramp video. It's got some high production quality there.
The voice in it, it's just so like, takes you there. You're gonna feel good about what's coming.
If you like one of the co-hosts on this show, you will like the voice in that video. But it's great. It's a great plugin. It's super easy to use. There's even a little UI if you're not a developer and you just kind of want to test things out. You can do that too. So if you are if you're thinking, hey, for like blog posts, maybe Gutenberg is fine, not ready to make the leap for pages yet, check out Gutenberg Ramp because
Yep.
it'll allow you to do that. It'll allow you to turn Gutenberg on for posts and off for pages. So very exciting stuff from the folks at WordPress VIP there. And the reason that we're talking about this is because people might not be ready for Gutenberg on day one. As a matter of fact, the demand for Gutenberg is not there, period, yet, period. This is an article that was written by friend of, I don't know about friend of the show, but definitely friend of both of the co-hosts of this show, Tom McFarlane. Um, and he kind of talks about how um, Gutenberg is coming, but the community is not quite ready for it yet. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? And the demand for Gutenberg is not there because people haven't really seen it, right? We've talked about this already. Those of us who are participating in the community know about it, but the greater WordPress user base doesn't know about it yet. So, um, his ultimate point, right, is that we've been praising people who are preempting um preemptively creating Gutenberg compatible plugins, right? But Tom argues that it might not be worth it until you see the demand for it, right? And where you know it makes sense, kind of. And for those of us who are, bootstrapped small businesses who just in the last month finished preparing for GDPR stuff, he has a very good point. Um, once he starts seeing people say, "Hey, I really need your plugins to be Gutenberg compatible," that's when he'll start the upgrade process. And he'll have testers, right? He won't have to like coerce his user base into installing the Gutenberg plugin or a beta version of WordPress or anything like that. I'll just say, hey, we can now test this in some kind of official capacity. So I think this is a good read. It's a different perspective from the one that we've been giving over the last few months. But Tom has many, many good thoughts. And if you're not following him, I recommend you do follow him because his insight is just fantastic.
Yeah, I love the smart people we have in our community, and Tom is certainly one of them. Like some people, whenever they speak, they're just so much thought around it. I'm like, wow, you this deep all the time, man. And probably so. I think so with the case of Tom, but I do want to say that I don't disagree with him. And actually, I think Joe and I have talked about this behind the doors, not necessarily on the show, but we have known that our courses and our content we're doing early for early adopters, right? And there's this bump, but really the life of our courses and teaching this stuff is only going to go up in the time after. Like, how many people are still learning how to make themes, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
do CSS, right? There's a long form to this. And there are people who are out there now building some early blocks, and I freaking encourage you to do that. But to really figure out what the problems are and what people's needs are going to be, like that will evolve over time. And then the people that could really scale to support it, which is a whole nother thing. Um, yeah, Tom's a smart guy. Drop this in the notes. I'm glad you pulled this up because I think it's something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's something to be said about being an early adopter. Obviously, we are both early adopters. We were first to market with our courses. But I mean, like I said at the top of the show or towards the top of the show, I'm redoing my whole course. Now that I understand what Gutenberg is and what people are thinking about Gutenberg. Um, over the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of months, I've been talking to a lot of freelancers who are like, I'm just going to send my clients to your course. Now I know I know very clearly. I had an inclination, but I know very clearly who my target audience is now. I kind of cast a wide net. Anybody who's heard of Gutenberg can buy my course. But now I know and I can cater to those specific people. And then those specific people have an excellent resource for their clients. Um, so, it's I certainly don't regret being an early adopter or first to market. I know I don't know how many people would say that they regret being first to market with something. Um, but the evolution thing that needs to happen is happening now because in the freelance circles, we are seeing the demand for Gutenberg. So, um, Tom has a lot of really good points about his plugin users and things like that not having a demand for Gutenberg yet because they don't really know what it is yet. Um, and for maybe the developers, the designers that I'm going after, the demand is there, and so it makes sense for us to start doing more with Gutenberg. Man, that
What he
got
said.
deep. Whew.
That was good. That was
I need
good.
I need a nap. I don't remember what I just said there, but I think it was good. It sounded if I play it back, I think it's going to sound good. Um that's all the links I have. Do you have any more?
Um, I mean, I have a bunch of little projects and stuff, just following Gutenberg Times, Gutenberg Hub, little things that are going out. I don't know that we need to get into all of them, but along the same lines of what Tom was saying, like tons of folks are dropping stuff and some of them seem to be upcomers. It's not as much. The big companies are still managing theirs. Side note, there's another page builder that I saw coming to market. H2O, I think, is the name. No,
Interesting.
is that it? Hold on, let me go back here. It was recently. I shared it out or saw that.
Well,
Oxygen, and
Oxygen.
it's
Oh, yeah. I've
not Gutenberg. I don't think so. Gutenberg has evolved. I mean, the columns still need love. Honestly, they need to
mhm,
be somewhere before users can really use them
yeah.
easily. And so it's funny to see folks still doing their same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that is really interesting. I've I've heard of Oxygen. I didn't know where it was in the development phase, but
I don't think it's live, but I
okay,
think seen it. I
people are
think I've
trying
seen
it
it.
out. Yeah, nice. If you are wondering where Zach and I get our news, I recently signed up for the Gutenberg News mailing list, which you
Uh,
can find over at Gutenberg.news. I think Mike McAllister is here. I believe he's the purveyor of that site, so he can he can correct me if I'm saying the wrong link, but I think it's
and
Gutenberg.news.
Mike's in the chat there. Let's also give
Yeah,
another shout out. He said his My Atomic Blocks plugin just crossed 33,000 installs. That's
look at that.
amazing. The
That's
surge for
fantastic.
blocks is here, folks. And I just used his Atomic Blocks theme on my second project. Just launched officeyoga.tv for that little midweek stretch and digging it. Sorry, getting off the track, but you mentioned Mike. I really like what he's doing. Thanks for your work, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike's doing fantastic work.
Gutenberg News
The
is pretty though.
yeah, right. It's very nice, and the newsletter's crazy good. Um,
I'm signing
yeah, so
up.
it's Gutenberg.news, and I like the newsletter a lot. It's like a weekly digest. It makes curating news for this show pretty easy. And then of course
Thanks
there's
for letting us be your mouthpiece, y'all.
yeah.
That's
Yep. Though you know what, if we're linking to stuff that he's linking to, we might have to pay him a fee soon. This is not Gutenberg related, but it's definitely like if we want to do just a couple of important web related things that happened this week. The European Union passed the first of I think what's supposed to be two votes. That's gonna like just crazy change copyright. I'll find that story and I'll link it. One of the articles, Article 11, basically says if you link to someone else's content, you have to pay them to link to it, which is bonkers. Like legit bonkers. And the other thing here, stateside, the Supreme Court ruled earlier this week in favor of South Dakota in Wayfair versus South Dakota, saying that the 1992 Supreme Court ruling saying that a state can only charge state taxes if a business has a physical location in the state, that's been
yeah, that was a big
overturned.
one.
Yeah. So some of you might notice that when you buy something on Amazon or some other online store, you don't have to pay sales tax. And that's because, well, it's a lot less likely with Amazon nowadays, but um, with a bunch of other places, it's because they don't have a physical location in your state. So If you're buying something from a New York shop and you live in Pennsylvania, hooray, you don't have to pay the sales tax. That is that can change now.
Mhm.
So nothing has changed yet. It's up to each individual state or perhaps locality to make new laws to change essentially that state's tax law. Um, but the Supreme Court has opened up the doors for that to happen. So, like for example, South Dakota has a law now. This is why they went to the Supreme Court, saying that any business that makes more than $100,000 worth of sales in the state of South Dakota is subject to South Dakota's sales tax. Um, which as a small business owner who does not do anywhere near $100,000, let alone in a single state, that seems, I guess, reasonable. I don't know. I don't like taxes, but that seems it's not just a broad stroke for anybody who sells anything within a state. Um,
Yeah.
so that's something to keep an eye on. I'm not a lawyer or an accountant, so talk to your accountant is what my recommendation would be.
All right, Joe, you're making me do it, man. I try not to get political or down with too much of this, but it does matter, and it's just been 11 days since net neutrality big deals
Mm.
have officially taken place. So keep the fight, states' rights, push for it, and don't back down on that because we want the internet, please.
Yeah, there's a lot going on now. Stuff that we need to be made
Yeah.
aware of. So, not Gutenberg related, but definitely web people who make stuff on the web related.
It's the
Um,
30% of the web show, you know.
yeah, exactly. 30% of the web show. So, um, that's everything. That's actually everything I have. Zach, do you have anything else?
I could keep going, but let's keep it there. And I think let's bring it back to the Gutenberg. We've got a roadmap. We've got some plans. You've got this one perspective from Tom of like nobody's going to sweat it till it gets into core. You could definitely take that approach, but we'll be here helping along. And in fact, it's actually aligning up with when stuff go in core. We'll leave this sneak peek of we've got some more courses coming and some content. So we'll be ready for that too. And I think that there's some fairness and let's all freak out. Go help the developers if you can and get this thing done well. But it's really going to be when we check back in, rolling into the core and that button coming out the neck, we're going to see some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So keep an eye. If anybody has any questions regarding Gutenberg, development, user stuff, training clients, whatever, send in your questions. You can find me on Twitter at jcasabona. That's JCASABONA. Zach, I think that they can find you on Twitter as well, right? Yep.
At Z Gordon.
There
Yes,
you
sir.
go.
ZGORDON.
Yeah. So send us those questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them. I don't know. Do we have another one on the schedule right now? I think we went through June. We wanted to run through WordCamp Europe. So if we don't have any on the schedule, we'll be sure to.
We'll be back. And I know the
Well,
folks
yeah.
from Give might come out and join us too. So
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, we definitely have a few more shows at least. If you want to stay up to date, I haven't been very diligent about this, but I will starting today. You can join the mailing list over at gutenberg.courses/ask-us, or is it just ask? It's dash
yep.
us, right? Yeah.
Slash ask us. I think it's one word.
Slash ask us. Perfect. So gutenberg.courses/ask us. You can sign up for the mailing list. You'll get reminders when live shows are coming out. Or you can follow us. Actually, Birgit over at Gutenberg Times has been way better about promoting this show than I have. So props to Birgit.
Thank
So
you.
follow her too if you want to know the next time we're gonna have a show.
GutenbergTimes.com,
Yeah.
Gutenberg Times on Twitter. Yep.
Cool. All right. Thanks everybody. Zach, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure, my friend.
All right. Remember to check out givewp.com. Until next time, get out there and block something, I guess. Bye, everybody.